Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Nyambura and this is 100 on Books. Today I'll be talking about the books I finished in the week ending 24th March 2023. And the first of those was Mayflies by Andrew Hagan, read by the author. This is a novel that spans 20 or so, 20, maybe 30 years. I'm going to say, more than 2 decades. And touches on the friendship of this group of Scottish boys who then grow up to be men, who are finding themselves. It starts off as a coming of age story, which is what it felt like in the beginning, and a bit of me was sort of like disengaged, to be honest. But then it transforms into a meditation truly on what friendship means, what is expected of us in the course of friendship, because one of the friends in the group finds out that he has a terminal illness and asks another friend to essentially walk with him on the journey towards the end of his life, with really tough consequences for everybody involved, including his partner, who then becomes his wife, his friend's partner, the larger friend group, and so on. But it's also about working class identities in Thatcher's Britain, growing up white and working class, music, a love of music, a building of community, thinking about masculinity and the ways in which male friendships have room for certain things, but also make it hard to have, say, certain conversations, certain intimacies, and how some of those friendships and friendship broadly can take one through so much of life. I think I first found out about this book from Sean at Sean the Book Maniac. It might have been somebody else, and I'm not going to lie, it took me quite a bit to get into the book. Like, I would dip in and out of it. The thing that actually pushed me to finish it this time around was that there was a hold on the book, and I just knew that if I allowed it to go back to the library, I would never finish it. And I'm happy I did, because we so often think about, like, friendship, especially in literature, is framed as like the province of a certain class of people. And this also had like some class mobility, for instance, and that class tension that emerges out of, say, a person of a certain class seeking education or seeking certain opportunities and so on. So it had so much going on in it. And as I said, I'm happy I read it till the very end. So that's Mayflies by Andrew O'Hagan. Then the only other book I finished in the week ending 24th March 2013 was Call and Response. Stories by Hotataone Moeng, read by Warona Setswaelo. I listened and practiced this so many times before now. But yes. So this was a hybrid read. I originally borrowed put a hold on the ebook, and then the audiobook came later, so I read a few of the stories before it arrived. And it's a collection of short stories, as the title suggests, that also has what I perceived to be a novella, which for me is the style of the way the story is set out reminded me of for instance, The Office of Historical Corrections, or The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, which have a bunch of short stories and then the one longer story which reads like a novella. And most of the stories, with the exception actually of the novella, center women who are chiefly living in Botswana, in Southern Africa, in case you don't know where Botswana is. And there's one that touches on diasporic life, but after the person has come back, where the diaspora is in the US. And then this felt almost like a self-insert, because the main character here is a writer. The character who comes back to Botswana is a writer, is female, as are most of the main characters, as I said, and has won a few fellowships and so on, but then comes back to Botswana having encountered what tried to me like depression and anxiety, like some mental illness, and they struggle so much that they come back home and essentially have to start their life afresh, but with everybody around them wondering why they would come back, which I feel is a familiar thing to a lot of people who come from Africa, especially. Like, why wouldn't you stay in the West? And I like the way that one story battled with that tension. Like, there's this idea of what the West is like, and then there's the reality of what the West is like for people who have lived there and have struggled there and have come back. And the struggle might not necessarily be financial, which is a struggle that more and more people are willing to talk about when they move to the West and especially to the US, but that one can be lonely, one can go through a tough time mentally and so on. There's also a story that has a main character whose relative has AIDS. That's set, at least for me, in the early 90s when AIDS was ravaging the continent. Like, for those of us who lived in Eastern Africa and for folks in Southern Africa, like, it really did a number on our countries. And so just finding a story that was so frank actually about what AIDS looked like, it was very present but almost unspoken, especially in the late 80s, early 90s. And then some of us may recall that then in the mid 90s till the early 2000s, we went into a period where people were talking about HIV up and down. And then now we've gone back to a time like nothing before, where there's an acknowledgement that HIV exists. Some people will still end up having AIDS, but it's not front and center, and that has its own effects. Yeah, and it's just so interesting seeing the way Tswana, like, culture and the tension between the past and the present, and what family obligations look like, what it's like to move as a woman through these societies, what patriarchy looks like in this context, that relationship between Botswana and South Africa, and what it means for families on a small and grand scale. Yeah, they felt like very quiet stories, stories that like were quite involved with one person. I mean, with everybody, their life is being affected by these grand things happening in your country or on your continent or in the world and so on. And yet there's this acknowledgement that at the end of the day, it's down to what this one person is experiencing. And so I really, really enjoyed them. I can't wait for this writer to put out a novel, because it says she's working on a novel. Yeah, I think it's going to be really good because this was so much fun. I found out about this. I know how I found out about this via NPR's Book of the Day, and I'm going to post a link to the particular episode downstairs. And I remember when I listened to it, I messaged my friend Mido. I'm going to put a link to her Instagram down below. She's a Motswana bookish person who I'm friends with, and I remember saying, oh my gosh, like, this interview made me think of you. And it was quite something knowing a Motswana and reading that book, because I even messaged her and told her it feels a bit more familiar for knowing somebody from this part of the world, but that's not essential to the enjoyment. At least for me, it was not. Yeah, it just was, the sauce, so to speak, the flavor. Yeah, and that's it. I read 2 books in the week ending 24th March 2023. I actually thought I'd only finished Call and Response, but then today when I was looking over my story graph, I realized I hadn't logged Mayflies, so that's 2 books. I'm recording this on the 30th of March, when honestly, there's so many more books to discuss this week, so I hope you're having a great time reading. I can't wait to tell you about this week's books, all those books, because I have so many thoughts. And please tell me below what you're reading, what you enjoyed lately, what you recommend. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Please like, share, subscribe, and all the good things. Bye.